All right, this is Will Tchakirides interviewing Michael Fournier for the HBCU Radio Preservation Project. It is 4:10 p.m. on April 18th, 2024. This interview is being recorded at WRVS Studios in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, on the campus of Elizabeth City State University. Okay, tell me your full name and what your current role in radio is.
My name is Michael Fournier. My current role in radio is program director at iHeartMedia Norfolk, overseeing WOWI, WMOV, and WHBT-FM, as well as the Black Information Network, BIN.
Thank you, yeah. Let's take it back all the way to the beginning. I want to know a bit about, well, first of all, tell me when you were born, the date.
Born December 11, 1975.
And tell me a bit about the place you were born and where you grew up and the people who raised you.
Born and raised Southbridge, Massachusetts, which is central Massachusetts, Worcester County, about an hour from Boston, which honestly, looking back on things, was a great place to be, even though there wasn't much to do. It's a small town, less than 20,000 people. There's a lot of industry around us at that time. It was a long time ago when industry was still happening, where things were still happening and things were still being made. But there's a lot of different types of people that were there. A lot of Puerto Rican friends, a lot of Laotian friends, a lot of different types of people. So a lot of influx. A lot of my friends' families, their grandparents and parents were the first generation from Italy or this, that, and the third. A lot of people didn't speak English. You know, we had the Polish club, we had the Italian club. So looking back on it and having just that opportunity to be around a bunch of different people and learn a bunch of different things, not knowing that it meant something, a little microcosm of the world, it was a great place to grow up ultimately. And then from there, moved to North Carolina sometime when I'm my sophomore year in high school, and wrapped up high school down there, and that's when I got a chance to listen to the radio more. As I was of that age, they say 14 is the age where you kind of make those decisions in your mind about what it is you really like and really go after it. And luckily I was born around the same time hip-hop was, and so that was really what was charging me up during that time. It was a lot of UMTV Raps was popular, and for a kid in a small town of Southbridge, Massachusetts, where there was no city outlet or no scene, let's say, being able to watch that every day and kind of fall in love with it was perfect.
Yeah, tell me a little more about your parents, what their names were and what they did.
My mother, Deborah, she was in industry. She was making lasers when we were kids, when lasers weren't a thing. Like I said, there was still a lot of industry that was out there, like the AO, the American Optical. Half the town worked at that place, and that was a big deal. I didn't know how big because I was just a kid, but apparently did all kinds of things for all kinds of people. I remember my uncle telling me the story once that they were up for the bid to make the shiny sunglasses for Sylvester Stallone in the movie Cobra. That's how important that place was at one time. My father, David, worked at that American Optical as well, and there was other places. It was Galileo, and there was Laser Inc., and there was Hyde Tools, and all kinds of things just in that small area. So that's what I remember.
Do you know, were they a part of a union at all in that industry?
That I don't know.
And what town was it that you moved to in North Carolina?
Moved to Carolina, 1990.
And what town?
Manio, North Carolina, in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Already had some family that was established there. My aunt had moved there many, many years ago. And so when it was time to leave Massachusetts, my mom wanted to be close to somewhere where family was, and so that was where we ended up.
And did your folks like to listen to music?
Yeah, I mean, the radio was always on in the car.
Yeah, what was on?
Just whatever was on the radio. I remember WAAF in Massachusetts. Clearly, I think is defunct now for some reason. I don't know how that happened because it was such a powerhouse when I was growing up.
Rock station.
Yeah. And then I can barely remember how I even listened to the radio, but I remember sitting and listening to the radio with the headphones on and making the mixtapes and pause tapes and all that stuff. I think there was a lot of different things, a lot of different flavors, but I wouldn't say they were like music aficionados, but the music was always on in the car, you know.
And the hip hop that was reaching you and touching you at that time, you know, who were some of the artists, and describe that?
Yeah, at that time. So I referenced I had a lot of Puerto Rican friends because that's probably the biggest ethnic group besides the white people in the town, and I had several Puerto Rican. They introduced me to what was happening at the time was like. Hip hop was growing, but in that area, and I guess because of the influence of my friends, what was happening to the left of hip hop was what I ended up finding out. We just called it club music or dance music or whatever, but it ended up being labeled freestyle. So like the Stevie B's of the world and the Johnny O's of the world and Cynthia all come to mind, and all that 130 beat per minute kind of stuff with people who couldn't really sing, but the feeling was there. We always loved it, and so it was that. It was house music was big at that time, and then of course the hip hop that was growing at that time was some of it I didn't even like because it was new to me, but I ended up loving Big Daddy Kane, who I didn't understand. I love Public Enemy. They just spoke to me somehow, some way, which is the weirdest thing in the world. Also, you know, Queen Latifah was big. I just remember everything that Yo MTV Raps was playing, I was trying to soak in and learn about. So whatever was playing in 1990 on Yo MTV Raps, that was me.
I think it's interesting that you say that at Public Enemy, it spoke to you, but you're not sure why, right? I think there's something to the content and the quality of that music. What do you think it was?
Yeah, I think it's visceral. It's the way I described it when I started to learn how to describe it was beautiful noise. It was just so powerful and overwhelming, and all the samples and all the heavy guitar and all the heavy drums and all the stuff I never heard before, like Welcome to the Terror Dome, and just these noisy but beautiful noisy records, and then Chuck D's voice laid over top of them, just in that powerful manner that he created those songs in, was it just incredible to me, you know.
I mean, we're going to get to the fact that you are a DJ. Was Terminator X a big influence? Does he have a particular style, or were there other DJs that were
Terminator X? Yeah, Terminator X was influential in the sense that, again, man, all those samples that they used and that Transformer scratch that he was kind of known for when he would use a lot. But yeah, there was a ton of DJs that I at that point, not knowing the differential, again, it's new to me. I'm soaking it in by myself, realistically. Like, there wasn't a clique of us or a group of us. It was me just figuring out what this was and what it meant to me and how it spoke to me. So, you know, I later learned these things about Jazzy Jeff and the Transformer scratch, and I learned about, you know, some of the other DJs that at the time were somewhat producers, but it was always the MC and the DJ at that time. It was, you know, Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff. It was Terminator X with Public Enemy. It was, you know, they were integral. It was Cut Creator with LL Cool J. They were kind of at the forefront. Eric B. and Rakim was a whole influence in themselves, just what they were doing. And it's, again, Eric B. with Rakim. And so the DJ was definitely at the forefront, which kind of eroded over time. But at that time, it was center stage, you know.
Yeah, and I really love that you said it was your Puerto Rican friends who kind of helped introduce you to hip hop, or that's who you were listening to it with. I mean, I think the place of Puerto Rican culture or in New York and elsewhere gets lost in the history of hip hop, right? Like, it's, you have someone like DJ Charlie Chase with the Cold Crush Brothers, right? Like, the Latin influence in hip hop is really important.
Yeah.
Would you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's New York, right? That's the birthplace, and the birthplace of New York and the birthplace of music is full of black people and Latino people. It's just part of it. Yeah, and if you look back, if you really, you know, take a look at the culture, they were present from day one. It kind of gets co-opted by whoever is speaking at the time and whoever's speaking the loudest and proudest about their culture at the time. But anybody who really knows that there was all sorts of people that were involved in that, even some white people, involved in the beginning, because you can't get away from the melting pot that is New York. It's just full of those types of people.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your educational background. Tell me the schools you attended and what some of your favorite subjects were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mean in college or?
But even before college.
So, my memory is somewhat clear on certain things and somewhat not on others. But I do remember, again, Southbridge, Massachusetts, going to West Street Elementary School. That's where we grew up. That was our part of the town. The little town had 3 elementary schools, and West Street was ours, which was the best, of course. I did well in everything, and I'm not trying to say that in any certain way. I just did. I don't know what it was. If it was just I was more adept to learning, I should say. I'm sorry. Or what it was. I didn't have any tutelage or any home kind of training that would tell me that. But my mother, my aunts, my uncles would tell stories of me as a 2-3-year-old going to the store and reading stuff, and they would trip out. They didn't understand how I was reading, and my older cousins weren't. I remember clearly in kindergarten having my mother leave a little note in lunch just to say hello or whatever, have a good day, and then bringing that to the teacher just because I thought I needed to give it to the teacher. And the teacher called my mother and said, well, you shouldn't give him these notes. And she said, no, he can read it. He just gave it to you because he thought he was supposed to. Because they actually let me in school when they weren't supposed to. I'm born in December, so the cutoff was usually like August, September. But because I could read, they let me in at 4. So I was always the youngest of the kids in the class. 5th grade, I remember Mr. Vesha's class. A good friend of mine, Kyle Baum, he would do this game, the College Bowl, just trivia questions, but he would always have to put me on the left side and him on the right, because if he didn't, it would not go well for the rest of the class. They would be bored. I was in the group called XL. They pulled us out of school. So in 3rd grade, I'm learning computers. And so we're talking like 1981, 1982. Nobody else was doing that.
Yeah, how important was that early experience with computers for translating to your DJ career?
Yeah, not very, honestly, man. Like I didn't care for it, to be honest. At that time it was like basic and logic. That's all I remember. And so what we would do is like make pictures on the screen, and I was like, this is dumb. To me, it was dumb. Looking back though, again, it's always looking back. You don't connect the dots until you look backwards and realize like, oh, I really had opportunity where nobody else knew what was going on in the world. I was privy to this new advanced thing that would actually take over the world. Who would have guessed? And but yeah, that group and that being pulled out of class and doing that once a week, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. It was logic problems. It was stuff that was way harder than we were ever supposed to get right, and so it was just to really kind of push us to think in a different way, in a better way.
Thank you. And where did you finish up high school in North Carolina?
Yeah, high school, North Carolina, Manio High School, home of the Redskins, and I was, I was a unique fixture at that school. That's a beach town. The Outer Banks is all beach, so it's the first time I ever saw kids go to school with flip-flops and shorts and stuff like that, and it's fishermen and it's surfers and it's that kind of place, and I'm coming in with looking cool.
A different vibe from Central Mass.
A different vibe, yeah, definitely.
What else did you notice that was different about that in Central Mass?
I think honestly, it was weird to me. There's a very distinct class system, meaning freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. You don't really kind of intermingle in Massachusetts with that. Like, you just don't. You're with your class and you're not. And maybe it's because Manio is such a small place too. It's basically like 10 towns that went to the high school at that point, something like that. So I think everybody kind of just knew everybody and dealt with everybody in the way that they needed to. So to break down that you can't talk, it's not cool to talk to, it's, you're looking down because you're a senior, you can't talk to the sophomores, that kind of thing. It really didn't happen there. And it might have been the Outer Banks kind of attitude too. It's a very laid back place, with the sandals and the everything else they got going on out there. They're on their own island time, let's say.
Describe the differences in terms of racial and class demographics between where you were in Mass and in the Outer Banks.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's almost, it's got to be 85-90% white at the beach. Definitely, and then the next group would be black people, and that's pretty much it, But even like the difference, like I was saying, where I grew up, it's a ton of white people, obviously, but it's Polish people, and again, whose grandparents don't speak English, and it's Italian people whose parents don't speak English. It's like first generation, so it's a different type of vibe because you're dealing with some authentic old country kind of stuff there. Here, I mean, it's Dare County and it's Roanoke Island. It's where the Croatan situation happened. It's like Virginia Dare was born there, the first. So it's a very old place. So you don't really have that influx of new kind of immigration type of stuff. It's just there's about 7, let's call it 7, I'm guessing, last names that really are prominent down there.
Some old money.
Yeah, Meekins, Daniels, and a few others. And they're all kind of related, but they're related over being there for 400 years, So.
And what is your racial or ethnic identity?
I'm French and Irish.
All right, so here's a French-Irish kid who's moved down to the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Yeah.
You're thinking about your next stage of education in college. What made you choose an HBCU like Elizabeth City?
Well, that was second in line. When I graduated, I went to Appalachian State first, and
another very different environment.
Yeah, again, and because honestly, like I told you, I was a unique fixture in Dare County, and I
say more, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to get out of that area, to be honest with you, as far away as I could and still make sense, and so I could have gone anywhere. I'm not trying. Again, I had the grades and I had whatever that I could have went where I wanted to go, especially locally, but Appalachian kind of just, it was so far away and it was so different, and it had the music industry program. And so that's really what was calling me. So we went out there, out to the mountains, from the beach to the mountains. And I really liked that place. I really liked that school. I loved how they had it set up. I liked the people that I met there. There's definitely different people there too. They call them granolas. The guys that play with the hacky sacks and the devil sticks and stuff. But everybody was cool, and we met some really good people in the dorm. Made some good friends there, but by the time it was time to talk to your advisor and see what's next, first year is nothing really, and so to see what's next, finding out that the music industry program, yes, it exists, but you had to either play an instrument or sing to be in it. You had to do some live kind of piece. I don't do that. I was going for the recording, for that kind of stuff, but since I couldn't do school there, but it didn't matter, because some of the things that I met and some of the people that I met and some of the things that I learned were fantastic, that they can't be taken away. It's too romantic to say destiny, but when I got there, that's when I met DJ Blackman, who is now Stacy Blackman, plays at one of the Charlotte stations actually now. He and I linked up, and I had kind of had the idea I wanted to be a DJ. When I linked up with him and saw what he was doing, because he was the only one doing it and doing it very well, even back in 1993. And when I went to his apartment and I saw nothing but records in every room except the kitchen and bathroom, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to do this now. So I took my spring refund check and I purchased turntables in 1994, and I never looked back.
Okay, so 1994. All right. Tell me about some of your hip-hop influences in the year 1994.
It was everything, man. I lived it. I back at that time, I was breathing it. I was living it. There was nothing else. The things that come to mind, again, Destiny, looking back, I joined the entertainment squad of Appalachian State University too. They had a name, I can't remember what it was, but basically, bottom line is, it was a council of students, let's call it 15 to 20. They were kind of responsible, under leadership and guidance, for doing all the entertainment stuff on the campus. And so at that time, luckily, A Tribe Called Quest was coming out with their album, The Low End Theory. No, I'm sorry. Yes, The Low End Theory. And then De La Soul was coming out with Balloon Mind State, and they were doing a tour. And so I got to help bring them down. I created the poster based off of Tribe's electronic Red, Green, Black Woman, whatever she's called, and got a chance to make that poster, put it up through the campus, and do that kind of stuff. Go grocery shopping for De La Soul and A Tribe Called Quest based on their rider. Pick them up at their hotel while I saw Dave, rest in peace, doing the laundry. And Griff, one of their guys, was doing graffiti on a sheet in one of the bedrooms. So, again, experiences I never would have had I not gone out to that school. So even though it only lasted 1 year, it was super impactful to go there first.
So the entertainment squad is kind of, you're producing basically events, and you're also entertaining people as well?
Yeah, well, they again, I call it the entertainment squad because it'd be based on us, who we're bringing to the campus and what we're doing at the campus, and working the event, and doing those things about picking up orange juice for De La Soul at the grocery store. But it's not you performing
as a DJ
Oh,
yet.
No, okay. Not yet. I was a baby. I was learning, but I will say I did my first DJ gig at Appalachian State University thanks to DJ Blackman getting double booked and him having enough faith in me just as a person, because I was not a DJ. It was a very small event that he actually recorded. He put it on tape. We had 90-minute tapes back then. It was only a 2-hour event for the Black Student Union, I believe is who it was for. He made the tape for me. Nobody there knew me. He set me up with the speakers. He set me up with one of his friends that knew kind of how to operate what was going on as far as the function. I had brought everything else in. And all I had to do was, when side A was done, put some music on to flip it to side B to get to what he had created for side B on that tape. And I had to carry in a few records in a crate so that nobody would question, what is this guy doing here? He's not even working. So I did that. And everything was going lovely, of course, because he put the tape together. And so I had to make the choice, what do I play when I flipped this tape? And I remember it was Shabba Ranks and KRS-One, The Jam. And they went nuts when I put that on.
How'd that feel?
Fantastic. And I can feel it right now. I can't see it, but I can feel it, because the energy just changed, and it changed because of what I did, and that was it. Just wanted that feeling more.
And would you consider DJ Blackman a mentor? Did he remain a mentor?
Yeah, 100%. We lost contact. You remember, this is like 93, 94. There's no social media. There's no nothing. So, unfortunately, when I left, that was kind of it. But still, at some point, it was several years later, I was doing middays or afternoons, one of them at WOWI. And he happened to be in Virginia listening. And he called the station, and I picked up the phone. And he said, "Is this the same DJ Fonts?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" "Hey, man, it's Blackman." And we got a chance to talk then. And, of course, as the years have changed and social media has developed, like, of course, we follow each other and kind of keep up. I keep up with him probably more. Maybe he keeps up with me, too. I don't know,
So what was so what happened at App State, and what was the connection between Blackman and WRVS?
So just the fact that I laid the foundation for everything there. I started doing the entertainment stuff. I'm now in the mix of the things, right? Mm-hmm. I did the DJ stuff for the first time ever, even though I faked my way through it. But it got me to where I needed to be. Luckily, my mother, honestly, was part of some credit card something or other where you got discounts things. So I bought turntables for $350, brand new Techniques, using my spring refund check from Appalachian State. So all those things aligned. I just couldn't continue to go to school there to get the degree that I wanted. So I had to pull back, retreat, and I did that for 2 years. I did that for 2 years to make some more money and figure out what I really wanted to do at that point. And then that's when I made the decision to come to Elizabeth City State University and work at WRVS.
Where were you working for those 2 years?
Just on the Outer Banks still, just waiting tables, and actually started DJing a little bit over there too. Now that I had the tools and I had a little bit of knowledge, and I started buying records and everything that needs to be done, because remember, you can't just download music. I gotta buy piece by piece every song that I want at $5 to $6 to $7 a pop. I started working a couple different places. I did a couple little things like Kelly's comes to mind, and also Woody's, which no longer exists. Neither of them exist anymore. And Van's Pizza was really the one. They were doing like a disco night thing, and so I just had the audacity to just walk in. Linda was her name, and talk to Linda about, hey, I would love to do this and maybe do it a little different way for you than just disco night. I'll stick to disco, but I need to branch out. She doesn't know me. She needs people in her place. She started paying me weekly to come in. First it was the test, obviously. Everything went lovely. I played there all summer.
Cool. So what was it about Elizabeth City State University that attracted you? Was it just proximity, or was there more to it, the program?
It was both. It was both things. Again, being in Northeast North Carolina already, I'm listening and aware of WRVS anyway, because they play the music that I like, at least portions of the day. Mm-hmm. It was block format, still is, and I remember certain things that I had heard on this station specifically that I might not have heard other places, because since it is the college station, there's a little bit looser grip on the format. They can play a little bit different things. So they were always on the dial. And then so just putting everything together about, I can do what I want to do there. I'm more dedicated to the DJ stuff. I'm more dedicated to the radio stuff, because I started radio at Appalachian too. I guess I glossed over that. That's where I met Blackman in the first place. He was my mentor over there.
What was that radio station called?
WASU. I believe it was 90.5 on the dial.
And did you do a student program? Were you a DJ?
Yeah, over there, DJ in the sense of, yes, being on the air as a jock, yes. It was student run. I'm sure they had oversight, but I just remember 3 older students two Billies and a woman that I can't remember her name. We're running the station, and you had to get your FCC license back then, so you had to take a class first. But before the first semester ended, I popped the mic for the first time in December '93.
Okay, so I want to talk about coming to Elizabeth City State University, stepping foot on this campus, and HBCU. Here you are, this European-American kid coming to an HBCU. What did it feel like to attend this school, and what did it mean to you to be at an HBCU to learn?
So, it's my first time I stepped on the campus was when school was not in session. I happened to be in Elizabeth City for something, or coming through the area for something. I can't remember what it was, but I remember that I was coming here in the fall and that I needed to intelligently stake my claim that I wanted to be on the radio. So I came to the radio station in the middle of summer, before school started, to tell whoever worked here, who I don't know who they were, I want to be on the radio when I come to school in the fall. And so it wasn't really about school per se for me. It was about the mission that I had in my mind about what I wanted to do.
So you came in here knowing you wanted to be on WRVS.
Yeah.
Whatever it took to get there.
100%. And again, I hate to sound arrogant, but school was not going to be the problem or the hurdle. I'll do whatever classes they need to tell me to do. I'll get my degree because that's what you do. But really, it was about WRVS and being on the radio and furthering the radio and DJ career.
Okay, so what did it mean to you to be at an HBCU specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a thing, right? Because it's not your typical journey, but I'm fine with it. And again, look, connecting back the dots of growing up around all kinds of different people, this just made me, it's just a school to me. It didn't mean anything in the sense of I shouldn't be here.
Well, not like that. Did you resonate with the mission of the school, the culture, the student body? And what?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I can tell you how it went exactly. So fall 97 is when I got here. And by that time, I had been corresponding with the Buddha brothers at WOWI in Virginia. A couple of letters. It's the mid-90s.
Who are the Buddha brothers?
They are legends in radio, specifically in Virginia radio, but in radio, period. Some things converge at the right point. And they were those people that converged at the right point. They were in the right city at the right time with the right mentality. They were one of the few that were getting exclusives, along with the big DJs in LA and New York and Chicago. I guarantee you, DJ Law and Big B had those at 103 Jams in Virginia. And again, so that's my listening, that's my goal, that's hearing them, and this is my stepping stone, being here at WRVS, and along, again, getting the degree is great, being in school is great, making friends is great, but being here at this station to cultivate what I really wanted to do was really the mission. But I'm saying all that to say with the Buddha brothers, I had that small interaction that I had been with them. It must have been October, let's say. Big B hunted me down on this campus. Again, no cell phones, no emails, no nothing. He just knew I did this, and I came in, and the folks that were working here were like, "Hey, Big B's looking for you." What are you talking about? Big B's looking for me. Big B's looking for you. Here's the phone number. So I called them from here. They said they wanted me to open for them because they were coming to the school. It happened to be for the Alphas, is what I found out later.
The fraternity?
The fraternity. And So I said, absolutely, yeah, of course I'll open for you. And again, they had never heard me play. They just knew I'm in Northeast North Carolina. I'm at Elizabeth City State. Let's give this guy a call. So I walked my stuff in. I believe it was a Friday night before to set up early, and the alphas kind of looked at me funny. Again, what does that mean being on an HBCU? Well, here comes this guy, this white guy on the HBCU campus with his DJ stuff. We don't know him. What's going on? So there was no word said, but I remember the look.
You had just gotten here?
Yeah, it was brand new. I mean, August of '97 is when the semester started. So I'm thinking this must have been early October, because we were definitely in school for a few weeks at that point. But again, nobody knew anything about me or whatever. But that night they did. That same guy I'll never forget it. It was on the left corner of the stage when I was bringing stuff in with Carlisle Capone. Demetrius Terry is his real name, because they asked him first, "You DJing?" And he was like, "Nah, he is." And then they looked at me, and that same guy, whatever record I played in that packed gym that was there to see the Buddha Brothers that night, that was from front to back full, he lost his mind and jumped up and down when I did it, when I looked out the corner of my eye, and I said, yeah, okay, now you know. And so everybody knew. So leading up to that, with nobody knowing who I was, talking to me, whatever, because I was transient. I was driving from the Outer Banks to come here.
Okay, you were a commuter to school.
Oh, yeah, I was humping. I was, at that point, I was working full-time still. It's an hour and change to drive here. But because the way class is set up, there's only a couple classes a day, and then I would do the radio show at night twice a week. So I'm literally on campus by myself doing nothing. So WRVS became home. Like, I was here a lot. And at that time, we had to edit records and everything else manually. So I'm sitting here just doing what I need to do. Just soaking it all in and being part of it all. But that Monday after that party, I got nothing but handshakes and pats on the back, and I was the man. And the college kids and every other fraternity paid for my lifestyle because I was doing parties every week for the next 4 years. So
what a way to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
And just to briefly explain, when you say you're editing records, tell me what that means.
Yeah, so at that time, there's obviously clean versions of everything, right, that comes on any vinyl, but the mindset here of the GM at the time.
Who was that?
That was Miss Thorpe, Edith Thorpe. Clean wasn't clean enough. She understood the protect the license, I guess, for lack of a better way to think about things, but just that the fact that we're serving the public and kids are listening and this, that, and the third, she wanted them ultra clean, which is fine. It's funny to think about now when you hear what's on the radio on any given day in any given city, but at that time that's what we wanted. And by the way, this was the late '90s, and so some of those records weren't exactly super clean, They used, for a while, till people caught on, because hip-hop was still underground, right? Not everybody was playing it. There weren't hip-hop stations fully. Some of the hip-hop stations were playing Patti LaBelle in the early 90s. So at that time, some of those things would get through, like, talking about a gun or using the N-word, or that would get through on the clean version. And so we would definitely have to clean the clean, but based on what she was looking for as well, we had to definitely clean every clean that came through. So,
what was your major?
English, because that's how things were set up here. I think the language, literature, and communications, I think, is how they labeled the department. So it was basically an English major that you would minor in communications. Mass communications is how you were able to kind of do all the things that you wanted to do, but it was under that umbrella of the English department, which I graduated at the top of the class, by the way. I'll just throw that in there.
Other than music influences, any writers, any thinkers, who's inspiring you at this time?
Man, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't have time for those type of things. I've lived the life that I always haven't necessarily wanted to. Like I was telling you, I'm working 40 hours a week, driving an hour here, an hour back. I'm leaving at 7 in the morning. I'm crashing at 11 at night, and eating at McDonald's by myself, for lunch. And so it was during that time, it was nothing but like focus on what I needed to do.
The non-DJ work, mostly waiting tables during that time?
No, at that time, I was at Rack Room Shoes full time at the Outlet Mall on the Outer Banks. Yeah.
Okay, so you start before we even get to the radio station itself. You're DJing parties, or you're beginning to DJ parties. You've made a name for yourself on campus. I want to know just a bit more about what the scene is like, what kinds of events you're DJing at. Are you participating in homecoming? So tie together a bit of what's happening on campus and the types of parties that are happening off campus and what it felt like.
Yeah. No, I mean, the atmosphere was lovely. It's I don't think there's anything quite like HBCU homecoming or stuff like that. Even at a smaller school like Elizabeth City State. But yeah, homecoming, all that stuff. They mentioned Viking Fest a little while ago. That's the big spring fling.
Did you play that?
Oh yeah. All of them. Like the the only ones that wouldn't. It was always, because this is just how it was set up, to have the gym, which is Williams Hall right next door. To have the gym, you had to be an organization. So it was the organizations that were throwing the parties, and I would be the hired hand, or some other DJ would be the hired hand. But they were all hiring me, except the Kappas. They would hire my buddy, which is fine.
Who was your buddy?
That was Will, his name, and he helped me out a lot too back then. He would help carry equipment, and we put some equipment together. I think he still got some of my amps from back then that I never collected. Yeah, he was a good dude and real helpful through the years, and so we connected that way. And so I never. It was anytime I was hired, it was appreciated. I never took it for granted, but by the time I was a senior, I moved up to Elizabeth City off campus, and I could afford to do that because I was getting paid from these parties every week. So yeah, and including the big ones like the homecoming and the Viking Fests.
Cool.
Sometimes there'd be parties off campus. You mentioned that too, at the Armory. That would happen once in a while. One of the fraternities. It always seemed to be the Qs, if memory serves me correct. Okay. That always got the Armory. Yeah, so they could make even more money, I think, off campus.
And I've heard stories of you driving your green Mazda around and DJing with a wagon on the back or something.
Yeah. I somehow, some way, again, luck, destiny, whatever you want to call it. A neighbor, literally 3 houses down from me in Manio, had this old trailer. And it was like plywood on 4 sides and plywood on top. And older gentleman just wanted to get rid of it. And so I bought it for something cheap. And I can't tell you how many times it paid for itself over again. Because of that's you have to bring the equipment. They don't have it. The school doesn't have it. So it's like I'm bringing the speakers. I'm bringing the turntables. I'm bringing record crates, 7 or 8 of them at least back then, just to make sure I had enough music for what I wanted to do. And that trailer, The last night I DJ'd here, it was falling apart over time because it was literally 4 pieces of plywood and a little hook latch and a padlock on it. And the last time I DJ'd here, romantic sounding or not, it's the truth, the door kind of fell off at the hinges as we were driving home. So it was kind of a real statement of this chapter's done.
Was that your senior year? Or
Yeah.
After?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a bit about WRVS, the station. So you mentioned Miss Edith Thorpe was the GM when you were here. So tell me who else was your mentor at the station, who you were working with, and you can lead that into the kind of programming that you did here.
Yeah, no, it was a good group of people, man. Everybody was super nice and really enjoyed it. Like I told you, I walked in here in the summer when nobody was here and I didn't know what I was doing. I just need to lay the idea down, like I'm coming in the fall and this is what I want to do. And Miss Keith was the receptionist at the time. She's the one who opened the door, and she was like, well, the GM's not here, and, real nice about it. And I was like, well, okay, I just wanted to, well, I'm in the city, so I just wanted to say hello. She didn't think nothing of it or think I would be anything or who's this guy, especially, again, just some white guy off the street on the HBCU's campus. What is he talking about? Like, it's probably just went past her. But at the time, that was my initiation to the first person who was on the staff.
That's Dorothy Keith.
Miss Dorothy Keith, yeah, was a really sweet lady. Miss Thorpe, the general manager, really nice to me. She definitely had a stoic, maybe the word, just an even-keeled kind of personality. I didn't really have to deal with her too much. She kind of just let me do what I needed to do and wanted to do. DL was her music, let's call her the music director of the time. She was younger but older than us.
What was the full name?
DL Underdew.
Okay.
Yeah, she was. So she was she was the young like Miss Thorpe and Miss Keith, and they were like the adults, and DL was still kind of one of us, And so I kind of worked under her a lot, honestly, because she was the music director. The music came to and through her. So any extra vinyl that she had, any duplicates, she would let me take because she knew I was DJing. And, of course, she'd be the one to kind of say, here's the music, and I would go through the crate and see what I would want to play on our shows because it was pretty much open format. There wasn't a regulated, you need to play these records kind of thing. So I would just get the records from her, clean up what I wanted to clean what I wanted to be on the show. So she was that person. And then Miss Kim, I just lost her name. I keep thinking Kim Fields. Jesus, that's not it.
What about Craig Sampson?
Yeah, Greg Sampson. Yeah, he was the production director. This was his room right here. And he did all the production stuff, so he was cutting the, it wasn't spots, but, cutting the underwriting and doing the promos for the station. And, he was a bubbly, lively guy, man, and a good guy. Like I said, everybody here was good and good to me, so I've got nothing but fond memories of everybody.
So this wasn't your first DJ job at a radio station, but tell me what it felt like that first time you sat behind the boards here at WRVS.
It's still nerve-wracking because, I'm still a kid. And by the way, like I said, that I took 2 years off, and it's not like I was proficient. So, I did my Friday night show at WASU. That was the extent. I didn't go any further than that. I wasn't in there during the day. I wasn't editing records. I wasn't part of any group. I wasn't at any meetings. It was just I had a Friday night show. So it wasn't very, in-depth in any way. Here I got involved. Here I got really involved. And like I said, part of that was because I had the time to do it, because I was on campus just waiting for things to happen. But also the way that it was run and the group of people that were here. they allowed me and they showed me and they invited me to do that and encouraged me, I think, too. Not like, hey, I want you to do this, hey, I need you to do this. They just had the door open and knew that I wanted to walk through the door, and they let me.
And what shows did you work on, and what was your time slot?
Ooh, man.
Genres?
I was all the hip-hop. Like, the hip-hop was on at night, and again, it's block programming here. I think at the time it was just gospel in the morning, R&B and jazz in the afternoon, and then for the students, they let the hip-hop and R&B play at night, and then so that was me. I was doing, I think that first year I was doing 2 nights, let's call it Tuesday and Friday. I think it was 7 to 10. That's why I was saying I was getting home and crashing at 11, because that when I was off, I was done. And so yeah, that was pretty much what was going on at that point. And I can't remember, it flip-flopped through the years, and I think by the senior year I just was doing 1 night, and especially at the end because of my senior year. I mean, because I actually started professional before I graduated at Clear Channel at the time in Virginia.
Okay, we'll get there. Also, were you around at all when there was a major fire here in the station?
No.
Yeah, I think that was in 96 or so.
No, I started in 97.
Okay, so you just missed that?
Yeah. I was here, though, when...
Yeah, what happened?
I was here, though, when New Year's of 2000 occurred. Of course, a lot of kids go home and that kind of thing, so we step up, the people that are in the city or close by, relatively close by, to kind of fill in the gaps. So I was here New Year's 2000 when, of course, the Y2K bug and people, the world's going to end and all this other stuff. Well, apparently, I got a knock on the door from the police on campus while the shift was happening. Hey, we got word that the KKK's coming. Just want to let you know. And so I have a very strong sense of humor, and it wasn't lost on me that I might die by the KKK just because I happened to be at a HBCU that night. Happy New Year. So, because I was the one that happened to be on campus.
So there was an actual threat of racial violence?
There was something, yeah. It's 25 years ago, but I remember the knock on the door, and I remember being told that by campus that they
Campus security?
Campus security, yeah. Now, I don't believe they ended up marching, but they got the word that it was coming.
Interesting, okay.
What do you call it? Intelligence.
Gotcha,
yeah.
Gotcha, but you were DJing at the time?
Yeah, I was running the station. There was nobody else here.
And I do want to know, are you going by DJ Founts at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been Funt since I'm in the 5th grade. I just slapped a DJ on it.
Okay. So, leaving the music at the station aside for a moment, this station, being an HBCU radio station, has a particular mission to help train students, and it also has a particular mission to be a voice for the community and to connect with the community. I want to know what those aspects meant to you outside of the music.
Yeah, at that time, it didn't resonate with me. I'm young. I'm just learning. I'm just soaking in what radio is and what radio means. But again, reflecting back and connecting those dots, just in a place like this, Northeast North Carolina, which is the very unpopulated place, there was nothing else like this, and to be able to talk about what's happening in Perquimans or Elizabeth City or Camden or what the high schools are doing, that kind of thing, it didn't really resonate with me at the time how important it was. But now, in the year 2024, with so much syndication and so many people losing jobs and everything being condensed in the world of radio, I think it's even more important now, to be honest with you, because music is everywhere and it's free, it's ubiquitous. Like it doesn't even mean anything anymore, unfortunately, to a certain degree, because you can find it anywhere you want. So that's just what's on the radio. It's kind of what's in between the songs that matters the most.
Was Miss Pierce the news director when you were
Kim Pierce, Jesus, I kept thinking Kim Fields. I couldn't get Tootie out of my head for some reason. Yes, Miss Fields, she was great. She was very helpful and very, very nice to me too. Yes.
Do you remember any of the sort of what issues, social issues, it could be racial issues, anything that's going on at the time politically around campus, around town, or in the world that you remember the station covering?
Well, you know what? At that time, so she was the news director, and so I think at that time what they would do is kind of pull anybody under their wing that they saw potential in, or who kind of wanted to be in that vein. I didn't go the news route, so I really wasn't paying attention to that. I just straight music at that point. But there were other people that were here that were definitely doing that. But they would, part of the training, because again, they would train you before they put you on the air, was, and with the classes that I was taking, like you had to do certain things as well, like here, read this script, here's this thing, and of course NPR was running, I think at that time, at the top of every hour for like 5 minutes, if it reminds me, memory serves me correctly. So yeah, I wasn't really in the news field or even worried about it. I was all in on the music.
Just tunnel vision on music.
Yeah.
And just along those same lines, I just need to make sure I get everything. Do you remember any protests on campus or any sort of political issues on campus itself that students were involved in?
They may have been. I'm not going to lie. I definitely was not, if that's the case. So I don't want to overlook anything that was happening. Mm-hmm. But really, like, you mentioned, I think tunnel vision is the exact word. My duty was to come to campus, go to class, and come to this radio station. I wasn't really, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't really involved in anything else but this radio station and turning in my papers.
Okay, and you can think about this in terms of music, but
Sure.
what does black radio mean to you?
Oh, it's important, and it definitely was important when I was doing this, you know. Like I said, like the rap hadn't made it yet, right? And R&B was what it was, and it was popular in certain circumstances, certain artists. But it's funny that we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of hip hop, because, you know, we're talking 1973, and I'm born in 75. So I mentioned that word convergence already once. It's like I was growing up with it, and it was growing up with me. So it's just been important, period. But I think to the community itself, again, with the syndication and focusing on maybe generic things, but maybe not from the black point of view. Even the news, you know, these are the stories we're going to cover, but maybe we miss some stories that the black audience would really relate to and really want to know about. So I think those things are super important, because there definitely is a point of view and certain things that resonate differently with different audiences. So it can't not be important.
What's your proudest accomplishment at WRVS?
Winning Best Show and Best Host 4 years in a row.
And that's voted on by the student body?
That's voted on by the people who ran this place.
Who ran the station, or the...
Who ran the station,
okay.
Yeah. That we had, at the end of the year, we had like a little, for lack of a better word, small gala, you know, a little spaghetti dinner or that kind of thing. And there would be somebody invited to speak. One year, I remember it was somebody from NSU's radio station, because they played Air Checks, and they played mine. He was like, I'll give you a shot. That's all I remember. But
what's an air check?
Basically just taking what you do, the breaks you do, the work you do, whether it be the promos you cut, the breaks you did on air.
It's like highlight reel.
Highlight reel, sizzle reel.
Yeah.
Yeah, knock it down to 2 minutes, minute and a half, whatever. And just, this is a sample of who I am and what I do. And luckily I did okay.
Cool. Thinking about what comes next for you, moving into Clear Channel and a commercial radio, I want to know what skills and lessons that you learned here in this station transferred to that next stage, and I want to know about the differences you perceived between the commercial radio landscape and the HBCU college radio landscape.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind that I learned here that transferred is actually what got me into commercial radio, what allowed me to get into commercial radio. Dr. Keene Daw, who was one of the professors in the English department, I guess just saw something in me and my pal who worked here as well. His name's Demetrius Terry, but we on the radio it's Carlisle Capone. She knew of a what do you call those? Where you meet people at the
job fair,
something like that. I can't. It escapes me right now. But basically, a media day up in Virginia. It was at the Portsmouth Renaissance, if I'm not mistaken. So she wanted us to go there because she knew we were doing, well and wanted to do more. So she chose both of us going, and there were a few people there at the. When I say people, I mean people of note that were there at the event, and one of the people that was there was Maxine Todd, who was at the time the operations manager for Clear Channel. So we talked briefly and said, "I'd love to send you air check." She said, "Fantastic, please do." When I got around to it, she had been fired. So let's call this October of '99. Yeah, I graduated in 01. This is like October of '99. And so at that point, I had a toe in the door because I knew she was there. So even though she got let go, I started hounding KJ Holiday. God bless him. And it took 8 months. And that's what I learned here, was just that persistence overcomes resistance. Because 8 months later, they finally let me intern there, the summer of 2000. They liked me so much, they said, "Can you keep coming for free?" Absolutely. And then in May of 01, when I'm still in school, they hired me part-time to be on the air there. And it wouldn't have happened had I not been brought by somebody who cared enough to bring us over, and not that I knew that, hey, you don't give up because somebody didn't answer the phone. You just keep calling them respectfully, but keep calling them, keep sticking with it. I kept sticking with it, and I'm still in commercial radio, so here I am.
So to be persistent.
Yeah.
And what was that station again?
Well, it's still WOWI.
And what did you notice that was different that first day interning and as you went forward into your part-time role?
Well, it was a super busy place, lots of levels, and that's something I really didn't fully grasp because, here it's just a few people and you broadcast and that's kind of it, in a sense, from my perspective as a student, at the time. And then when you get there, you realize, oh, it's promotions department and they're super integral to what's going on. And oh yeah, that's right, sales, they got to make money, and programming, of course, where the heart is. But without any of these groups doing their function, the place fails. And of course there's a whole business office that goes around there as well. So to see all the different types of jobs that weren't really part of this, I'm learning what the big boys do, and it's a whole different, it's a different world really, from doing this. This was fun and I enjoyed it fully, but I didn't necessarily know what it took to really run a radio station on a commercial level day to day, especially in a mid-sized market like that, where they had people like that every day.
And what are the different pressures when you're servicing the interests of shareholders, right, in a corporate setting versus the public, the community, the students here?
Yeah.
Did it change how you approach your job?
At that time, no. At that time, there were enough levels and enough people doing a specific function that you could just focus on what your specific function was. As time rolled on and people were let go and more people were let go and more people were let go, I'm wearing about 6 hats right now in the job that I'm at. Love to have it for anybody listening.
Are you still at the same station?
Yeah.
Oh, since graduating college?
Yeah. 24 years off and on.
Congrats. That's really great. But, as you're referencing, there's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to know, you started in 2001, part-time, but September 11th happens later that fall. How does that influence your career?
That was memorable, to say the least. Nobody knew what to do, obviously. I mean, there's protocol, but luckily for us, I do remember going in that day, even though we had nothing to do, because the station flipped over to full-time news coverage. But they still wanted us there. And so me and my partner at the time, Joe Super, I remember just, was kind of sitting in the studio talking about how crazy everything was. And then down the hall, DJ B was working, and, we had a conversation or two. And, that was a weird day, to say the least, obviously.
Okay, so the station's also known as, is it 103 Jams?
Yeah, it's 103 Jams, and it's changed over time. Certain sticks have changed formats and whatever, but 103 Jams is the powerhouse. And
yeah, tell me how the format has shifted over time.
103's remained the same, and so it's hip hop and R&B. When I started, it was basically an all urban cluster. So it was WOWI. The station that I was hired to be on part-time was WOWI, but it was with the idea that I would be moved down to the hall when because they had just created an all hip-hop station that was a step between commercial and college, where they gave us the freedom to do whatever the hell they wanted, what we wanted, but they'd still pay us to do it. A very small amount, but they'd still pay us to do it. So it was WBHH, stood for We're Blazing Hip Hop, and man, that was probably the best way to enter commercial radio, because you still had all the flavor and all the fun of what it is you really wanted to do in the first place, without all the extra corporate kind of stuff and rules that go along with that. And then also there was WJCD across the hall. That was a jazz station. And I think that I can't remember the calls, but I believe at the time when I started it, I believe it was WSVY. It was a R&B station, adult UAC, Urban Adult Contemporary Station. And so that has kind of changed over the years into what the stations are now. But WOWI still holds strong because it's been number one and continues to be.
Tell me again what regions the station covers?
So it's Southeast Virginia. The towers are all in Southeast Virginia, and actually the tower for WBHH, and it still is in Moyock, North Carolina. So,
do you know how strong it is in terms of the kilowatts?
That particular signal is about 15,000 watts.
Okay.
WOWI's 50. There's another stick in there that's 50, and moving is what the jazz station is now like a top 40 kind of hot AC type station. That's about 15.5, something like that too.
And what time slots are you doing? Have you always done the afternoon drive home show?
Yeah. Well, so you want here we go, because this is how radio works. So again, I was part-time on WOWI, just doing a mix show on Friday nights kind of thing. And I wasn't DJing. I was the host paired up with DJ Keene. So it was great. It was Saturday night special, what we called it. But then they moved me over directly when I graduated. They knew I had the time. They made me full-time on the all hip-hop station, the WBHH station. And at that time, me and Joe Super were doing nights. And the show was called Two White Boys and the Beat. That's something they came up with intelligently, actually. I didn't like it at first, but I was like, yeah, I get it. Because again, you know, being the minority in that field, it stands out to kind of call attention to it and to own it. And so and it was crazy. I promise you, no lie, when Joe and I would go out, because he was DJing, I was hosting, basically, is how it worked at that time. Every week, everywhere somebody, I didn't know y'all was really white. Because we were so good at, that's what they're saying, you're so good at what you do, I can't believe that you happen to be white. And I think about the reverse of that. I'd be like, what if I said I can't believe, you know? But it's funny. You take it with a smile and you understand what people are saying. But because what they were saying is, you guys are good at your job, and we were. Joe was great. He's still a better DJ than me, and he hasn't DJed in a long time. Technically, he's great.
So this is kind of a consistent through line in your life. Did you ever feel like an outsider in these environments?
Yeah, I mean, in only in the sense of I'm good with everybody. Like personally, I got nothing but love for every person and everybody. Again, part of that's probably just because of where I'm from, and I was exposed to so many different types of people. But no, there's definitely, even as I told you about that first party and that guy kind of looking at me strange, like I consistently get those looks. I get them now, and I've been doing this professionally in the same city for a long time, depending on where we go, depending on the attitude. If anybody has a bad attitude, you know, that's going to be the first thing out of their mouth, or you can feel that vibe sometimes depending on where you're at. But I don't ever take it to heart. I understand what it is. It's just somebody who isn't smart enough to express themselves any better. As
an on-air host, are you interviewing MCs and other hip-hop artists?
I've interviewed everybody, man. The only people that I haven't, that I would have liked to, is Jay-Z and Beyonce. But they don't do anything. Eminem as well. You know, those few unicorns that are so rare that they don't do anything. I haven't. But I mean, but now take just a small step down to the Alicia Keys and the 50 Cents and the huge names. I've talked to all of them.
Who sticks out as one of your favorite interviews? And tell me one story.
50 Cent, for sure. We got him to come to the station early on. I'm talking like 2000. I started there 2000. So this is 2002 when Get Rich or Die Trying, yeah. And he was having the fight with Ja Rule and all that other stuff. So it just so happened that on the turntables we had some slip mats. They were Murder Inc. slip mats. And 50 came in the studio and immediately flipped those over, took out a Sharpie, and signed 50 Cent on the back of them. And they're still at the house.
So our listeners know that was Ja Rule's record label, Murder Inc.
Yeah.
That's funny. Any other good stories you want to tell?
Yeah, I mean, even just with 50 alone. So of course, he's 50 Cent, right? And I know him from the Trackmasters and what he did previous to that album. That album didn't really solidify anything yet. right? It was just he was in promotions mode. So he was still just approachable 50 Cent. Cut to a few years later when now he's really 50 Cent, this thing that Dr. Dre and Eminem created and unleashed on the world. The next time he came, he made us shut down the internet. And security was incredibly heavy. You would have thought the president was coming. But to say I'm not coming without you shutting off the internet, basically so nobody can say he's here, give that location to anybody who might have devious thoughts. I think that, and he rolled like that across the country. So that was definitely seeing the shift from this guy to now this mega mogul in the making. So yeah, for sure, that one. Busta Rhymes was great. The energy's just crazy. He taught us he taught me and Joe the phrase "won yourself," because he was just mad at something, and he was talking to us like friends. This is off mic, just talking to us in the studio off mic, and he was da 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 da. And if you're gonna act like that, won yourself, kid. Basically meaning, go hang yourself, you know. Mm-hmm. So, just moments like that stick out, man. And honestly, I got more of a chance of people coming to the station. I was lucky enough doing PM Drive finally on WOWI when the Buddha Brothers moved from afternoons to mornings. They put me in the afternoon because they thought I could handle it, and everything went lovely. So I thank everybody over there, KJ Holiday specifically, for doing that. Because I was in PM Drive, starting in 2005, I got to go fly to the BET Awards every year to do the radio room out there. And so I got to talk to everybody out there because they were there. And I got to go one year to the Radio Music Awards, and that was even better. Better in the sense of higher caliber artists like Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, people I hadn't had a chance to talk to in previous times. So.
Okay, so you're having quite a bit of success in radio and commercial radio. How are you? What are you doing to give back? And have you brought that experience back to this HBCU campus and helped try to mentor or tutor any other up and coming radio DJs and stuff?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, been to plenty of campuses. Been to ODU's campus to talk to kids. Been here a couple of times, and actually. Had them select group of kids come to our station so they could see what we're doing in Virginia. I'm going to do it again actually in like a week or two. So they'll be coming up. The program director here, Mr. Mercer, will be gathering a select group of kids and coming on up so we can just, give them insight, answer any questions they have, and talk to them from that real world perspective, Yeah.
Are you still, throughout your career in commercial radio, are you still DJing shows and performing DJ as a DJ?
Oh, yeah. I slowed down a lot, though. It's the 100% truth of it is, so DJ Law, who I mentioned earlier, who was kind of like a mentor to all of us, really, in the area, who were listening to radio at the time through the 90s. When he turned about 38, he kind of stopped doing clubs because he kind of recognized that he felt he was playing more for not his peers anymore. And I'm only a few years younger than him, and I didn't understand it. I was like, but because he has the skill set, you can do it. Go make the money. And then I turned 38. And I was playing at a club in Portsmouth. I remember it clearly. I'd been playing there for a year straight. And I never really look up when I play, but I stopped and I looked up and I was like, I think I'm good. And I kind of stopped doing the clubs. And at the same time, I got a son. So again, I think I'm playing for my son and his friends instead of me and my friends. And so I slowed down with the clubs. Now, special events and everything, love to do them. I just did a wine fest 2 weeks ago and made very lovely money for playing at the Wine Fest 2 weeks ago, and will continue to do those things because I do love it. And I still mix every day for the show at 5 p.m. I still do the mix, and I fully enjoy mixing in the bedroom or mixing for like the mixtape or the mix show kind of thing, because it's 20 minutes of me just doing what I do and presenting it instead of packing up equipment at 2 a.m. and, you know, all this other stuff that goes along with it. So
what do you think has been the most significant change in radio over the course of your career?
The technology.
Yeah, how has it changed?
When I started, we were using carts, basically 8 tracks. Pick it up, put it in, pick it up, put it in, let it play. And at that time, things had started changing to digital. Like just started. And when I got to the commercial side, they literally, I'm going to say within that first year that I was there, they introduced us to a full-blown computer system that the music and everything was in that computer log for you. And that's when we realized what they could do if they wanted to. And eventually they have. The technology is a gift and a curse, probably in most circumstances, but in the field that we're in, where it comes to the radio stuff, but also where it comes to the DJ stuff. Like I was telling you, when I started, just like everybody, you couldn't say I'm going to be a DJ tomorrow. You had to go buy every single record that you wanted at $5-6 a pop. I'm $11,000 in debt when I leave college, just strictly from the music. That's me betting on myself on a credit card for the last 4 years. And I eventually got out of it because I stuck to it and made the money and did what I did the clubs and made myself into whatever I turned into. But now, with the technology, you want to be a DJ tomorrow? You won't be good, but you can be a DJ tomorrow. And all you need is somebody's hard drive. And you can try. And a lot of people, you know, they try and they fail. That's why the pawn shop's full of speakers and mixers. But that has definitely been the biggest change, and it's been a gift and a curse, really.
You mentioned you have a child. Anything you want to share that you're comfortable with about your personal life? If you.
Oh, I'm married and I got a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does your wife do?
My wife owns her own salon.
Okay.
Yeah. Please go see her.
and where are you all based at?
Oh, in Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, the south side of Virginia. So the station was in Norfolk forever. We literally just moved to Chesapeake almost a year ago to the day. And so everything, my whole life's been on the south side of the 757.
Do you ever connect with folks at Norfolk State's radio station?
Yeah. Everybody that works there now used to work with us. But because of, again, things changing, people leaving, people being eliminated, half that staff, if not more, is I know well because they were at Clear Channel when I was hired.
Cool. All right, we're going to move towards the end. I just want to know something we ask all of the people we interview. What does it mean to you to have worked at an HBCU radio station?
Whew. What does it mean to have worked at an HBCU radio station? I tell you, from my unique perspective, it's been sort of a blessing, for lack of a better word, in the sense of you understand, historically black college university, it's in the title what this place is. And so for everybody to just give me the chance and put their arm around me and encourage me and give me best show and give me best host and really understand that the talent supersedes any other thing, that you want to maybe attach to who I am or what I look like at an HBCU. It's special, man, and again, I don't take it for granted. So,
and along those lines, what do you think of what we are doing at the HBCU Radio Preservation Project? And what I mean is, like, why do you think it's important to catalog this history going forward?
Yeah, I think that the history is necessary. If you're going to tell the story, you need to know what the story is. And for such a long time, when black music wasn't mainstream, you had these outlets doing what they did and doing what they continue to do. But I think the story and the history is even more important because of the time in history where everything wasn't as mainstream as maybe as it is now. It was still being presented by the HBCU community, by the college community specifically, and you can't just let that go because there's going to be people that are way younger than me and way younger than my kid that would never understand what it was.
Yeah. Well, you've had a long career. We obviously didn't get to all of it, but, is there anything that we've not talked about in this interview that you want to make sure we get on record, or anyone we've left out that you want to mention?
Man, I don't think anything comes to mind because we mentioned the entire staff, but I mean, it was more than the staff though. There was good students that were the same. Again, they would. Everything was just good for me here, man. Jermaine King comes to mind. He's a great guy, now a professor at Virginia State University. Dr. King, I'm sorry. Let me throw that in there. Clayton Mercer, who's here as the program director now, who had his own journey, we started kind of here at the same time, and I was ahead of him, but we were all grouped together. Earl Jones, Demetrius Terry, Maria Phelps, Amanda Parker. There was just a ton of good people on the student level here as well, not just the staff. So, for lack of a better word, a bunch of good friends.
Right on. Well, Michael Fournier, DJ Founts, I want to thank you for your time today and for sharing your story. And we really appreciated talking to you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's good to tell the story.
Thank you so much.